Okay, hello everyone. We are live. Thank you so much for joining us for today's live workshop training all around customer support and specifically Smarty. Yes, thank you for joining us. If you are in the chat, please let us know where you are calling in from today. As a reminder, I'll mention this in the chat a few times throughout the call, no doubt, and we are recording today's session. So if you get disconnected at any point or you want to watch any of it back, you can do so at any time. You can just come back to the exact same link that you are on now to rewatch. And I think that's pretty much it from me and the introductions. So we're going to briefly bring up our disclaimer, and then I'm going to hand you over to Nuran, who's leading today's session, our Director of Support. Nuran.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here and to see all of you. So my name is Naren. I'm the Director of Support here at Hospitable. I will not spend any amount of time really talking about myself because I want to spend the bulk of the time that we have available talking about Smarty. And so I'm going to get right to it. Of course, I'm super happy to answer any questions that you have about all other things related to support. But yeah, we'll go through it. So meet Smarty. Smarty is the name that we have given our AI agent. And our AI agent is obviously built into Hospitable. It's like the little icon on the bottom right of your screens whenever you're logged into your Hospitable account. It is powered by Intercom's Fin, which for anyone who's a bit versed in the customer support space is one of the leading providers of software. It's of course available 24/7 and it's trained on a ton of content. I think it has access to something like 400 or 500 different help articles. We obviously invest quite a bit in training it for every product release. The one thing that is, I think, relatively unique about Smarty in comparison to a lot of the typical AI agents that you see and experience in support are that it actually has a ton of context and a ton of very, very personalized context when it comes to your account, your properties, your scheduled messages, your reservations, and so on. So it can really do quite a lot. It can answer questions, it can help you troubleshoot, but it can also take actions that were typically only accessible to the support team via our backend. Smarty also has access to quite a lot of those, and you are always only one click away from a human. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in terms of like what's the appropriate way of interacting with Smarty and really sending things over to our team. But it is really not one of those AI agents where you have to fight to get to a person at the end of it. We've really tried very, very hard to make the escalation path as smooth as possible for everyone. So I'm going to start with a little interaction. And the question that I will have for you is which one of these responses were written by a human, or at which point in this interaction was it handed off to a human versus how many of them are written and handled by an AI. Now, obviously, they're slightly edited because anyone who's used AI a lot will know that they have like very typical formulaic patterns and so on. And also, I wanted to try and reduce the amount of text that we all have to get through for this, but I still think it's a very useful exercise, and I'd still be very curious to see what everyone says. So the initial interaction was started by a host who says, a guest tried to book and I missed the 24-hour acceptance window. I've already sent them a direct booking link with a friend discount on the side. This is the reservation code. Any way to extend that so I can still accept it? And the first response was that acceptance window can't be extended. Once a direct booking request expires, it's locked. The cleanest path is to cancel that one and send a fresh custom quote with the discount already applied. Do you want me to walk you through that? The host says, I already did that. This is the new code, but my friend says they can't pay. The link goes straight to, oops, payment collection is not possible. The reservation has not been accepted by the host. And then the second response is that error usually means the new quote got tangled with the expired one. I can cancel it so that the dates are unblocked and you can issue a clean one. Please confirm and I can do that for you. So the host says, yes, go ahead and cancel it. Just so you know, when the first booking got expired, I tried to recreate it. I had a sync error on Verbo, canceled, opened the Verbo calendar manually, and I tried again, and I still have the same error. And then the next response was, okay, that's been done. That reservation is canceled. The dates are unblocked, so you can send a new quote. The bigger problem now is that Hospitable thinks that the dates are open, but they're blocked on Verbo. Are those dates correct on Hospitable or on Verbo? And then the next response is Hospitable is right. The dates should be open, but they're closed on Verbo. So then from our side, it says, got it. Since Hospitable has the correct availability, I can force push it out to all of your connected channels for that window of time. Do you want me to run it now? I'll only push availability, not pricing or minimum night stays. And the host says, yes, availability only, thanks. And then the final response is I've started the force push for that property, availability only. Verbal and Airbnb should reflect the change within the hour. Is there anything else that I can help with? So at which point, you can just put it in the chat. I think I can see everyone from the chat. Which number response do you think was a person? I'm not seeing anyone. No one wants to guess. 3. Okay. Jeff says that's all AI. That is correct, actually. That is all AI. So even when it comes up to running all of the actions that are involved, so running a force push, force canceling a reservation, all of that was handled by AI. And this is actually an example interaction that happened just this week from end to end with multiple problems that were raised, and it was all handled by Smarty. So this is actually the case for around currently 75% of the total incoming volume to the support team is actually handled completely by Smarty. And I think it's kind of hard to get a sense of that if you're not interacting with it regularly, if you're not seeing the same types of volume that we see, of course. So I'm going to go through a bunch of examples of interactions and a bunch of very, very specific things that it can do today. These are just the ones that I selected, again, from the last couple of weeks, and they're really just to indicate kind of this broader pattern of Smarty can actually do quite a lot of things. So I'll start with the first one. Smarty can check the status of your payouts. So it does need a reservation code. It's always dependent on a certain set of information before it's able to do things. And that's one of the things that are a little bit of friction. It's often a little bit of friction that you would have with our support team as well, especially if you have multiple properties, lots of reservations. Then this is the piece of information that it uses to really pull that from our API to be able to actually help. So with a reservation code, Smarty can really track the status of the payout from end to end. It can explain if it's been paid out, to which payout method it's gone out to, at what time, if it's scheduled, if it fails, why it might fail, and so on. The next thing that Smarty can do is apply an availability window. And so for this one, it needs a property ID, and you need to tell it which dates it needs to apply the availability window for. But you'll see here the examples. Can you help me confirm that my property has that availability window? My whole calendar was blocked as of yesterday, but I unblocked it manually. And any of you who have had some experience with our calendar will know that if you unblock dates manually, they will remain blocked, irrespective of your availability window, because manual edits will trump anything that you have in your settings. And so Smarty can actually go, yes, this manual edits will be applied, but I can help you reset it. So I can help you apply the availability window today and push it to all channels that are connected. The next thing that Smarty can do is push calendar data. So this is one of the things that we saw in the example earlier. It will still need a property ID, and you do need to confirm what type of calendar data, of course. So you need to tell it it's pricing, it's minimum night stays. Here's an example. I get an error message when trying to publish a listing on booking.com that says property does not have dates available. How can I fix this? And this is one of the things that Smarty can fix by pushing calendar data. So can you confirm that the correct calendar data is in Hospitable, but not in booking.com? So we'll always ask for a bunch of steps of confirmation. And this is by design on our side. This is to make sure that it's always doing the correct things that you want it to do. And then it will, again, push calendar data to booking.com in this case. The next example here is it can create an upvote feature request. This is something that it's only been able to do for literally 2 weeks. So it needs a feature request. Of course, you just ask it a question and it will automatically recognize if that's a feature that we provide or not. This is a relatively common feature request that we get around reactions. So Airbnb supports reactions in their inbox. We don't currently support reactions. So you can give it a thumbs up or a little heart. And Smarty can already search under feedback.hospitable.com is where you can access our feature request board. It's completely public. It's maintained by our product team. We actually invest quite a bit of effort there as well. And so it will search through everything that's on there, see if there is already an existing feature request. If there is, it will help you upvote it, which means that you will get informed if there are any updates to that feature request, or it will create a new one. So it can do that completely independently by itself, again, just pulling some information from you if you interact with it. The next one is around merging properties. So sometimes when you try to merge properties, you will run into a couple of errors, and some of those errors can be overcome. Other errors cannot be. So in this case, Smarty will need the 2 property IDs. This is, again, the exact same process that our support team would go through. Here's an example where the host actually had received some double bookings as a result of their properties not being merged, which is one of the biggest risks of having unmerged properties. And Smarty offered to merge them and got confirmation that they know how to handle the reservations that were overlapping, so the double bookings that they have, to make sure that they'll reach out to the guests and let them know and deal with the cancellation and so on. So Smarty can do that. There are still safety nets, and so it will not be able to merge properties that have totally different addresses, for example, in the same way that no member of the support team can also do that. It has pretty much the same restrictions that the support team does. The next one is around explaining calculations on owner statements. And so this one's super interesting. Typically, it will require both the reservation code and the owner statement ID, which you can get from the URL at the top. So when you see the owner statement, and it can be really, really, really specific. And so this is an example where someone was asking around a reservation and said, hey, why does this statement show this amount of money when the guest paid a different amount of money? And what's adding up to the total that's owed to the manager? What are the elements of that? How did they happen? And Smarty can pull all the information associated with that particular reservation and also how it's calculated. So it knows the reservation commission agreement, the settings that you've set up, the columns that you have available and visible within your owner statement, and then it can help you pull out all of that information to present it to you to explain exactly how it's calculated the way that it's calculated. So this is like all of the small little specific things that we have tried to train Smarty in doing over time, and there's a ton of them. The other things that Smarty can do is like general AI things. And so any of you who have a bunch of experience working with AI will know that you can prompt it. And in a lot of cases, it will be able to help you out. Like you can treat it as an assistant. So a range of examples here, it can draft messages for you. So it can draft emails, especially once you've gone back and forth. So let's say you're asking for instructions about how to invite your owners to the owner portal. You can then ask it to draft an email to an owner, so that you can just copy paste it, and it can really help you out with things like that. It can help you write listing descriptions. It can help you write responses to reviews. Can build a personalized step-by-step guide, again, depending on your particular setup, depending on your needs. Here's a range of examples, all from the last couple of weeks, of different ways that people have been using Smarty. We can always really tell when someone has a lot of experience working with AI because it enables them to get value out of a Smarty interaction that's like way beyond just asking it a how-to question or like asking it a question about Hospitable in particular as well. And this is just scratching the surface. Like I could honestly go on for quite a while about all of the tiny little specific things that it can do. I've listed a bunch here, so it can look up roles and permissions for teammates and owners. It can guide you on the best subscription plan for your situation and your needs. It can check security deposit statuses, timing, any issues capturing a security deposit. It can get you unstuck from the email suppression list. So if you find that you're no longer receiving notifications from Hospitable, it can actually help you debug that as well. It knows how to debug things related to your photos on a direct website. It is connected to our status page and will confirm if that we have an ongoing incident, if we had an incident at some point in the past that impacted a particular feature that you're asking about today, and so on. And again, a lot of these things it's been able to do for some time, but a lot of them are really, really new as well. So we've been working extensively on Smarty to make sure that it's capable of doing more and more and more over time for everyone. Honestly, the steps involved in getting a lot of value out of Smarty are really not that high. I think the biggest thing that trips people up is the insane level of experience that people have with AIs that are very stupid and that are really hard to get past. And so those two things, I think, make it really damage people's trust in like a customer support agent, in a customer support AI agent in particular, being able to actually help. And so one of the things that we have seen a lot is that people will often start by saying, hey, I want to talk to a person. This is totally valid. You can always start knowing that you want to talk to a person. But what we found is that because we're relying on Smarty a lot to route tickets to the correct inbox, and you can see here, we actually have quite a lot of inboxes. It's really challenging when we start with zero context, because then Smarty doesn't know what it should do with that particular conversation. And so starting by explaining the actual situation in depth already makes a big difference, even if you end up going to a person, because it knows exactly where to put you. And so you can go to the direct team that's really trained on that particular issue, that's able to handle it. And it's also able to register how urgent an issue is, to prioritize it if it needs to be prioritized, for example, payout issues or things that we always handle with a high degree of urgency. And this is all required. Like Smarty needs to know that in order to be able to do that. Of course, the more specific the question is, the better. And so being able to share reservation codes, property IDs, specific dates that are impacted, Smarty will always ask for this information. And we have seen a couple of people who will drop out. So they kind of get frustrated at the friction of having to go back and forth with Smarty. And so they will immediately escalate to a person. But then very often you'll find that, a couple of hours later, when it gets to a person, that person's first question is the exact same question that Smarty asked a couple of hours earlier. And so we can really speed up our resolution times a lot, the more information that we gather at the beginning. And we focused a lot on training Smarty to be able to ask for the exact same information that is needed by the support team so that we're able to really resolve things quickly. You can, of course, always push back on Smarty, let it know when it's wrong. I think this is one of the things that is a lot easier when you've interacted with AI a little bit. Some AIs are very, let's say they try really, really hard to please. And so, we haven't seen a ton of hallucinations with Smarty, but we have seen a couple. And often I would typically say, hey, just push back and let it know that it's not really being helpful. It will always offer to send you to a person. So that's how it deals with that. And then we can also fix it on our side as well and make sure that it's better trained in future. And then the final step really is, it requires explicit confirmation that you want to go to a person. So we have only ever seen people getting stuck in a loop with Smarty where they keep engaging with the content of its response. So they just reply to it. And so Smarty is trained to continue replying. If someone seems like they're getting frustrated, it will offer proactively to send you to a person. But if you don't specifically tell it, yes, I want to speak to a person, or you can click a button, like it's also offered as one of the buttons there. If you don't click that button and you don't tell it, then it doesn't actually escalate. And so it's not that it really takes a lot of time or a lot of effort to escalate to a person. It just requires that explicit confirmation, and it will immediately go to our team. Smarty really does not hold on to tickets, and we're not at all trying to discourage people from talking to our team. We are really trying to develop a tool that's actually useful, that's actually valuable, and that can unblock people as fast as possible, both in service of our team to make it easier for us, but also in service of our customers to make it easier for you. All right, so the question is, how did we get here? For anyone who's really curious about this, we have really there's been a lot of ups and downs in the support team over the last few months, honestly, over the last couple of years as well. There have been moments where we've been really, really solid, and there have been moments where we've struggled a little bit. And over the last few months, there have been a couple of periods of time where we really did struggle. We have invested consistent effort in Smarty, and it's been really quite a lot, actually a lot more than the majority of companies that I've worked at have been able to spend in AI, especially on the engineering side. This is one of the things that's usually very, very difficult to get access to. So we have dedicated effort from engineering to enable Smarty to run actions and access data. And that's really the thing that enables us to be able to resolve a lot more cases with Smarty, because it often has access to the exact same sets of information, the exact same access, the exact same actions that our support team would run as well. And that requires, of course, engineering effort. We've invested a lot on the AI training side. So we actually also work with an external consultant who's really dedicated and dedicated specifically to training Smarty. And a lot of that is just prompt engineering and figuring out the exact sets of words together. So everything related to escalation, we've really invested a lot of time. There's been a lot of iteration to make sure that we really have the right balance there, and that we collect the right amounts of information, but that it always goes to a person really, really comfortably. Of course, we've invested a ton in content. So our help center, help articles, we've spent an insane amount of time. There's been really a huge amount of effort across the entire support team. Every single person in the team has been working on content, making sure that it's really as up to date as possible. And we consistently and always review interactions with Smarty, both negative and positive, to make sure that it's actually resolving things, that people are really not walking away from it frustrated, and always to identify opportunities for improvement and to say, okay, here's another thing that we could train it and how to handle. To give you just a little very brief snapshot of some of the numbers. So we have, this is one of the reasons why it's been quite challenging in support over the last couple of months. We've really seen such a massive and rapid increase in the total amount of volume that we're getting as a support team. You can see here the stats from January 2025, we were at around 10,000 conversations a month. And now in March of 2026, we hit 20,000. So we've doubled in total volume. Our support team has not doubled in size over that period of time. So it's really been one of the things that we've constantly have to try and catch up with because the volume is growing so fast. Simultaneously, we can see a really huge amount, like just the amount of work that we've invested in Smarty has also led to massive improvements there. And you can see that that's also speeding up over time as well. And so at around January of last year, we were only at 44% resolution rate. So that's the proportion of cases that are actually resolved by Smarty. And now we're at about 70%. And like I mentioned at the beginning, for the last week, we actually hit 75%. So also our numbers for April are going to be a little bit higher than this as well. To give you another, like just a little snapshot of some of the numbers we have here. So 73% is our last 4 weeks. We're currently at solved by Smarty. We are hoping that we can push this up even more by training Smarty to handle more things. We're at 82% customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction is one of those things that is always it's always polarized. So people are either very, very happy or very, very unhappy, and those are the types of ratings that we get. But even then, the number of people who are very unhappy with Smarty is actually very, very low, and all of those interactions get pushed back to our support team as well. So the moment that we recognize that, hey, this actually was not a good interaction for a customer, then we automatically proactively reopen it, and it will be handled by a member of the support team. We currently have more than 60 data connectors. These are all the individual API connections to our API to be able to pull different information and to be able to run actions. And our support team as a whole, on a collective basis, had 1,700 article updates in total in the month of March. So just to give you a sense of just the sheer amount of effort that's really been invested here, so that we can make sure that we're always on top of it and that we're always providing really great help. And I took here, just to end my final slide, a little bunch of a snapshot of some of the feedback that we've received over the last 2 weeks from customers. Often we find that people are really surprised, like when they actually take the time to engage with it. Like I said, there's always a little bit of friction where it will ask for information and you'll be like, this is kind of really annoying that I have to copy paste a property ID. But the moment that it has that information, it's just able to do so much more. And so it can really resolve a lot of things and help a lot with a little bit of extra time and a little bit of extra investment. All right. Yeah, so that's it for the presentation side. I don't know if we have a ton of Q&A, but I'm super happy to take any questions that people have about anything support related, either related to the topics that I've already covered or other things that you were maybe curious about.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much, Nuran. So yeah, if you do have any questions, there is a little Q&A tab on the chats. The chat's on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm probably pointing in the wrong way because of the mirror effect. But if you do have a question, feel free to ask it in there. I do see a question in there from Jeff. Is Smarty only available on a web client? I am logged into my Android app and can only see Copilot.
Smarty is available under the help part of the mobile app. So because of the way that the widget works, it kind of covers a lot of buttons in the mobile app. And we got a lot of complaints that it was really intrusive for people and really annoying. So you have to go into the menu items, click on help, and then there you'll be able to access Smarty all the time.
Sweet. Thank you very much. Okay, question from Marta here. What is the average wait time for going from Smarty to talk to a real person? I still feel like the wait is quite long.
Yeah, this is quite variable. So right now it kind of ranges from maybe an hour to probably around like 6 hours. It depends on the time of day that you reach out to us, and it also depends on the particular issue that you have and which inbox it goes to. It is something that we are actively working on all the time. And so I really believe that within the next few weeks, we'll see a massive improvement to our response times. We've invested a ton, like we added so many. I think we added 10 people to the team over the last 2 months. So we've really invested a lot in growing the team. Growing the team is always like a little bit of a lagging metric because it just takes time for people to be trained up enough that they're actually really helpful. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that it takes time to see the impact of that. But we've already invested there, and it is getting better and better over time. So yes, I completely agree that it's still too long, and we're still working on improving our general response times.
Cool. Sounds good. Good question from John here. Is there a difference in level of, I guess, quality of responses from Smarty based on what tier plan you are on?
There is zero difference. So you get access to all the same tools that Smarty is able to do, no matter what plan you have. We're actually also, like, one of the really interesting things that we're probably going to start experimenting with in the near future is giving it access to the Hospitable MCP. So anyone who's invested a bit of time in using that as well can know that it really gives you access to a ton more information as well. And we think that Smarty will be able to make use of that to be even more helpful. So yeah, no difference at all depending on what plan you're on.
Nice, awesome. Okay, good question here. Maybe this is a follow-up piece that we do. Is there a place where I can see the commands Smarty can help you with?
Currently not. I think if there is a lot of demand for this, then we might document something in the help center. So I can take that as a suggestion for improvement on our side, and we can start maintaining something like that. We will. So when you review help articles or anything, or sometimes even when you talk to Smarty directly, we give suggestions of like, hey, you can resolve this issue by asking Smarty whatever, and we'll give you a couple of phrases there. So we do prompt it in our help center, but I think we can do a better job there. So that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah, nice. I think we can flesh out essentially what you did with these slides and actually add some prompts to that as well. That'd be good. Great. Steve with a question here. Do you have human Eastern US support hours?
Yes, we do. We actually, I know this is like very shocking for people because our response times are not amazing, but we actually have support 24/7. Like there is not a single moment in any day where we do not have someone in support working. We have a lot more support during US hours than we have during other times of the day. What does happen is that we have periods of time during the day and during the week where we have just way higher volume. And so we fall back a bit, which means that then the next shift that has a bit lower volume is able to get back to everyone that reached out in that time. And so I think some of our US customers experience this thing where I've seen feedback for this as well in the community, where they feel like they always get a response from someone in a different time zone. And that's not because we don't have US support. That's only because our APAC team handles also still a lot of the conversations that come in during US hours. This is one of the things that we're trying to improve as much as possible with our coverage and with better staffing. So.
Cool, makes sense. Okay, another question from John here. Can Smarty integrate back into Knowledge Hub?
Not right now, but this is actually one of the amazing things that it will be able to do with access to the Hospitable MCP, which is something that we plan on working on, like not next week, but the week after. So probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, it will be able to.
Nice, awesome. Okay, what if Smarty makes any mistakes?
Then honestly, just let us know. So if Smarty makes a mistake, and even if you're like, oh, I was able to resolve this, but it was still not a good interaction, I would go through I would basically tell, hey, can you send me to a person? And then a member of our support team will see that feedback. We'll make sure to improve Smarty for the next time, so that basically it's made visible to our team, and we can get back to you and fix it.
Nice, great. Jeff gave a great suggestion here. For those not familiar with using AI bots, you can actually ask Smarty for some suggestions on what you can prompt it. Great call out. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, kind of coming to the end of our questions that have been submitted so far, folks. If you do have any more, feel free to drop them into the Q&A. We'll hang on a few more minutes in case there are any more. Gary had a question not related to Smarty that he could probably go and ask Smarty about how to add saunas and a forest bath to upsells. Maybe a good question for Smarty there, Gary.
I would be super curious if you could try it out right now and then let us know if it's actually helpful or not. I'd be very curious to hear your feedback.
Okay, sorry, a couple more questions snuck in there as I wasn't looking. How does priority support change the process?
Priority support, the primary thing that it enables basically is that it prioritizes your conversation when it gets to the support team. And so as standard across the entire team, what we do is that when we start working in a particular queue, in a particular inbox, we always start with priority support conversations first. It does not mean that we are consistently able to resolve priority support issues faster. And it also is not exclusive to priority support. So sometimes we, out of our own volition, will recognize a particular issue as like a high urgency issue. And that one will also be prioritized. So that is also one that we will try to get back to a little bit sooner. That's the way that it currently changes the process. It doesn't change anything for Smarty. It's really only on the handling on the support team side. And it essentially means that we prioritize that. But yeah, we have not yet communicated any particular SLAs or anything with regards to priority support. And so that's one of the points of feedback that I've also received from people who are paying for that add-on.
Nice, okay. Question from Jeff here. What is the source of the knowledge for Smarty? Is it just internal knowledge base, or are we pulling other information from the internet?
The vast majority of the knowledge that Smarty relies on is our knowledge base, but it does also have access to internal documentation that we've made available to Smarty. It has access to a bunch of the tools that we've built that are specific to our API and so on, so it can pull bits of information, and it is also able to pull information from the internet. It's just like in terms of the priorities of content that it reaches for first, information from the internet is not super high up there, so it will try and go through a bunch of the other things that we have initially. We do also have like very specific troubleshooting guides that we've developed and trained over time that we also do a lot of testing with and things like that. So Smarty is trained on quite a bunch of things on our side, both internal and external, before it reaches for things from the internet.
Okay, perfect. And I think a perfect question here to kind of round us off. How do you actually access Smarty? I don't think we clarified that necessarily.
Yeah, so when you are logged into your Hospitable account, on the bottom right, you'll see that there's a little messenger there. It's a little help widget. You can click on that, and there's a couple of different options, but the very first option is ask a question. And if you click on that, you'll get to Smarty. That's where Smarty is accessible.
Perfect. I think that is it for questions from the audience on this topic at the moment.
Cool.
Okay. I don't know if you want to speak to this, Nira, on this final slide.
Go for it.
Cool. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today, obviously. If you do have any kind of follow-up questions, thoughts, ideas, you can join us in the community.hospitable.com. You can even tag Nuran there, or myself, or other members of the team if you've got a direct question for them in particular. This is a great place to kind of share ideas, share kind of prompts you used that have been kind of useful for you. It's a great way to kind of continue the conversation, kind of learn from each other, and also from the Hospitable team. Also, always happy to take feedback there as well. If you've seen something not working quite right, I'm sure Nuran's going to be paying attention to it and adjusting as we go.
Amazing. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, everyone.